Hello, Basics Bitches. Welcome to another episode of Muscle Monday. I'm your guide through the iron jungle and companion on this journey to a stronger you. Let's break down the basics of strength training with the precision of a weightlifting ninja. Lace up those lifting shoes and prepare for a weekly dose of muscle building wisdom. We believe strength isn't just in the body, it's in the mind, the heart, and the dedication to becoming a best version of yourself. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Call Me Skinny. Excited to be here with you today. I am currently looking through my phone here because I have a folder that has my, there we go, shared notes. I was like, why is that not showing up right now? Anyways, we are talking here about Muscle Monday. We are talking, I'm all over the place, y'all. I'm sorry. It is a Saturday. It is middle of the day. It is cold here in Michigan. It's like barely 55 degrees with a wind chill. It's cold and I'm all over the place. It's been a weird day for me today. So my apologies. We're going to start out actually saying hello and welcome and thanks for joining me today. That's first. And then, so we're going to talk today, Muscle Monday. We're going to chat today about how do you know if you're lifting appropriate, like heavy enough weight? How do you know if what you're lifting is good enough? I talked about a lot of like progressive overload, what that is, what that means. I'll go over it really briefly here, just in case you're new to the show. If you are, hello, welcome, hi. And if you're not, then you have already heard this. If you want a bigger in-depth discussion, if you will, about progressive overload, take it back to, go back, find another Muscle Monday episode where I actually go really deep dive into progressive overload, why it's important, why we use it. But, let's talk about, are you lifting heavy enough? Like how do you know if you're progressing enough, if you're lifting heavy enough? Okay. And the couple actually things that I want to do first is talk about what you should not be paying attention to, things that you should not rely or use for discovering out this. If you are discovering out this, y'all, it is a day, discovering if this is the case. Okay. So, there's lots of different ways to decide if you're doing this correctly. And there's also reasons and ways to figure out, use methods to not use. Okay. The first one is going to be, form, right? We don't want to use our form as a way of deciding if we're lifting heavy enough or not. And there goes my phone, y'all. Like I said, it's been a day. We don't want to use form as that. Okay. Sometimes, you think that you have the technique down and you don't necessarily have it. So then you go lift heavier and end up getting injured. So form is not an indicator of if you're lifting heavy enough, okay? Relying solely on soreness, aka DOMS, so delayed onset muscle soreness. This is not an indicator that you are actually doing it. Now, I'm going to talk about what is an indicator when it comes to being sore. But when we are so bad, we can't sit on our toilet. We can't get up from a chair. We can't walk upstairs, literally to an extreme place. This is where DOMS comes in. That is actually that is a sign that you went too hard, too fast, too soon. So you either did too many reps at too high a weight, and your body you like overstimulated essentially. And this actually does the exact opposite of what we want it to. So you have to be very, very careful. Okay. Chasing numbers is not a way to decide. Yes, you want to use progressive overload. Progressive overload just means that you're constantly stimulating the muscle, whether that's with weight or reps. Okay. It's a sign to constantly lift more weight over time. Okay. But you have to consider other facts in here. Now, things like, and I'm going to give specific examples here, the shoulder press, lateral raises. I've been lifting almost 9 years now, which is wild to say, but I've been lifting almost 9 years now. And, I'm still at like no more than like 15 pounds for a lateral raise. Okay. Shoulder presses, I'm at like 35, 40s. Okay. Shoulders are tiny, tiny muscles. You're not going to constantly overload them and moving up in weight. So stop you said progressive overload is when you move up in weight. Yes, I understand that. But there's nuance. Okay. So you can't just solely base things off of your numbers. It's a great place. It's a tool to use, but it can't be the only thing that you use. Right. And ego lifting, right? Ego lifting does involve lifting heavy, right? So, but you cannot go higher than what you can actually do with proper form. And these are things that we're going to talk about, because you can end up really hurting yourself. You could potentially hurt other people. Like, these are all things, these are real things. Okay. So let's talk about ways to know if you are lifting heavy enough in the gym, right? Progressive overload. Again, I said I was going to talk about this, right? Gradually, you want to be increasing those weights over time. If you've been lifting, tens for bicep curls for the last 4 years, this is a problem. Okay. At some point, yes, you're going to tap out. Even bicep curls, I'm at like maybe with some, I wouldn't say sketchy form, but like I do a little bit of a help, if you want to call it, where I do a little bit of a scoop with my, a little scoop up with my arm, shoulder, body right there. I'm at like 35s. Okay. But I'm not moving much more than that. I'm not moving much more than that weight. Okay. So you want to gradually increase over time, but also, again, there's going to be nuance to this, right? If you have been there for an extended period of time, you should probably go up somehow. If you have 2.5s, like some gyms go from 15 sets of dumbbells to 17.5 to 20 to 22.5 to 25, right? That's a great time to try to increase a little bit if you can. My gym does not have those kind of dumbbells, but we do have that stuff on the barbell. So in bigger lifts, I don't use the 2.5s, things like my deadlift and my squat, but I absolutely use that on a overhead press or a chest press. I will absolutely put on 2.5s plates, because it'll take me from 85 to 90 and then 90 to 95. And it gives me just a little bit more stimulation on that muscle. Okay, so that's one, progressive overload. The second is your rep range. Right? You have to understand each rep range has a specific purpose. If you're constantly in this low weight, high reps, it doesn't necessarily help you. Okay. That's for more this almost endurance. Here's a prime example, shoulders, lateral raises. I do lower weight, higher reps, because I have to get to a point where I actually can stimulate the muscle and overload it, right? But on a deadlift, I'm not doing a lot of high rep stuff. I typically don't go higher than 8 to 10 reps on a deadlift or a chest press, right? So I've talked about this too before, probably in that same episode, I would assume, as my progressive overload episode. But for strength, you want to see 1 to 6 reps. Okay, hypertrophy, so muscle growth, you want 6 to 12, and then endurance is going to be 12 and up. Okay, and or if you're trying to overload a muscle like your shoulder muscle that you can't necessarily move very high in the weight, it's just not going to happen. There's nothing wrong with that. The majority of men that I see are doing lateral raises, I shit you not, with 20s and 25s. This is a real thing, and I'm quote unquote comparing to a man because they are inherently stronger than women. We can move on the fact if it hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but that's the reality. They have testosterone a fuck ton more than we do. And that's the reality of it. Okay. So when I tell you that they're only lifting 20 to 25, some maybe get into the 30, 35 range, very few, that's normal. Okay. It's not abnormal to be lifting a little bit lower. So I increase my reps for those and I keep the weight a little bit lower, right? For my, typically for my my deadlifts and my squats, I'm at a 4 to 6 rep range. Okay. If I'm gonna do more for muscle growth, then I'm gonna go more in that 6 to 10 range. For me, that's where I typically end up with my bigger lifts, like my squat, my deadlift. Okay. And then of course there's all these nuanced things. Hey, if you're not really sure what the fuck you should be doing, hi, join BOD, Basics on Demand, the Netflix of training. Okay, great. That's another way. So paying attention to your rep range. So far we have progressive overloading, paying attention to rep range. The last few reps of the set should be challenging. Okay. The last 2 to 3 really should be hard. You're probably going to slow down the movement. You might have to take like a 1 to 2, 3 second rest in between and be like, okay, like, all right, I got one more. Okay. I got one more. Okay. And that's all I can do. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going constantly to failure, but we are really squeaking these last 2 to 3 rep ranges, or these 2 to 3 reps out. If you can just bang them out, you're like 10 reps, boo, 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 that you need to add more weight. Okay. And on the flip side of this, what was I going to say? And now I have to get my notes because I just had this thing. Rest time then, right? after you do these last 2 to 3 reps that are pretty difficult, your rest time should be no less than 60 seconds. I program anywhere from 60 seconds to 2.5 to 3 to 4 minutes, depending on the rep range of the person and what's happening and their amount of time in the gym. Okay. Your rest is important. If you're getting bored during your rest, you're probably resting enough. Okay. I'm just going to say it like it is. Now we can't go on the too far end of it where we're taking, 10 minutes of rest because we got stuck scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or something, or you just got sucked into my podcast, something like that. Right. But we have to be diligent about resting. If you don't need 60 seconds of rest, you're not lifting heavy enough at minimum. And that's a minimum. I would say closer to that 90-second range. By the time, you put the weight down and get ready to pick it back up, you're in that 60 to 90 second range. Okay. This whole, I don't need rest. If you don't need rest, you're not lifting. You're going through motions. You're checking boxes. You absolutely have to fucking rest. Okay. And then we're going to talk about muscle fatigue. And I know I kind of talked about DOMS, and there's a difference between fatigue of muscles and DOMS. Like I said, DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness. This is where we can't walk upstairs, where it's hard to get out of bed the next day. Ladies, we have a hard time sitting down to go pee. And you're like, oh my God, I need the handicap stall. Okay. That is different than muscle fatigue. You should feel like your muscles have been worked. You should feel maybe a little bit tired, right? Even throughout your day, it may feel like, ooh, man, I really can tell. Last Saturday, not this Saturday, because I did not do my training session today in the gym, was nothing like last Saturday, which is wild too, because I was on my cycle, right? Everybody's like, don't work out during your cycle. I tend to do very well on my cycle, actually. And the week after, I tend to be a little bit lower, just lower energy than on the, I kind of have this low energy pre-cycle. I get on my cycle. I have this higher energy level, especially towards the end of my cycle. And then I kind of go back to this a little bit lower of an energy level. And so today it wasn't very good, but last Saturday, man, I rocked that shit. It felt so good. I was telling my husband, I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the best workouts I've had in such a long time. Oh, it felt great. And I woke up on Sunday and I was like, ooh. My back felt worked, not so much where I couldn't do what I needed to do. I couldn't function. It hurt so bad and I was in so much pain, and I was no. And understanding the nuance between soreness and pain, that's a whole other issue that we don't do a great job at understanding. But you should feel like you have worked at some point. Okay. You should feel like your muscles have been worked. I felt this way after arm day this week. Sorry, I'm yawning. It's rude. Okay. I felt that way after arm day this week. Sorry, guys. I'm hitting middle of the day here, and it's just, like I said, it's kind of an off day for me, and my biceps were sore. Not so much my triceps this time, but my biceps were kind of on fire. The next day I could definitely I felt like I had worked my muscles. I felt like, man, I really rocked my biceps. Not to a point where I couldn't pick things up or carry things or do things. And I was so sore that it was just so hurtful and painful. And oh my gosh, I got to take all this stuff, and I got to take ibuprofen and all these things, and I can't walk and I can't move and I can't none of that. Right. So you have to understand the difference, right? Now, if you're getting zero soreness, and I'm talking you don't ever feel like you work out, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much weight, how many reps you're doing. And you're just piece of cake. You probably need to increase slightly. A little bit. I would definitely increase. Again, a little bit, right? We don't need to go to the other side of the world where it's oh yeah, rock it up and add 100 pounds to everything. No, it's add 5 pounds next time you go train, see what happens, stimulate that way. And that's one of my favorite things to do is to see what happens in, what's it called? In BOD or with my one-on-one clients and stuff. I can go through all their stuff and I can see oh, we need to increase here. You've been at this weight now for the last 2 weeks and you've hit the top of your rep range. You need to move up if you can, even if that means you only get 4 out of the 8 reps. It doesn't matter. You get 4 of those 8 reps. And again, if you don't understand progressive overload, go listen to my podcast about it. Okay. All right, you guys, I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you are off to a great start this week. What do we got going on? We have swim meets this week. We got a scrimmage on Friday for my son for football. We got, what else we got? We got my nephew, their first home football game for the high school. So we got lots of things going on this week. Plan, ladies and I guess gentlemen, if you're listening to this, but we need to be planning, ladies, so that we are prepared. Plan to be prepared, and you will be prepared. Okay. I hope you guys have an amazing week. I can't wait to catch you on the next episode. If you got anything from this, please screenshot, share it. This is how I get out. I am word of mouth only. I would love and appreciate you so much for that. All right. Catch you on the next episode.